Were you bumping into problems that were based on their interpretation of the requirements, or did you detect any anti-Jewish sentiment?
Oh, absolutely no.
There was no question of
Absolutely no.
That was the question.
No. This was strictly had to do with the legalities of all of the zoning and all of the requirements for building that we were looking at. And like I said, we had two great attorneys involved with this, Paul Klein and Herb Nobbit. Stu Silver had been involved with negotiations. So we were in good hands, but it just took a long time.
Okay, so you started this process in June of '87. When did everything get signed?
It really didn't get signed until at the end of '88, I believe. I can go look up the dates when it was signed, but it was a very long time.
And during that time, you were still collecting money, raising money for the building, because you had the seed money.
We had the $100,000 from the Friedmans, and yes, as a matter of fact, there was a Franz Blau family that had given money.
Okay.
What was that family?
Franz Blau.
Yeah, hang on just a second, because I've got some stuff right here.
No, we're gonna edit this, so don't worry about it.
Okay, yeah. So I was going to say turn it off when we're not using it. Things that I brought because I thought it was interesting because there was one.
This is new. Do you have any idea what happened to the Franz Blaus?
No, I do not. I do not.
They just kind of disappeared.
I didn't drop that. Because there was actually, I brought a budget in one of these. An early budget, or I can certainly send you the info. The Franz Blaus and then Dan Kaplan, excuse me.
Yeah. Dan, we know a little bit about. Gene was very helpful.
Yeah, Dan Kaplan and Saul Blumenthal were on my board. The two were both brilliant. They liked each other, they were friends, but they rarely agreed on anything having to do with the congregation. And one or the other was constantly threatening to resign because of what was going on, but they both were really very, very helpful from the standpoint of getting all of this started. And Dan Kaplan had made a $25,000 pledge to the temple. And Saul, the Blumenthals, of course, were very, very generous as well. But yes, we had money. We were collecting money at the time for our building fund, And it was my instruction to the architects based on the Smith, this proposal that was done by Smith from the standpoint of what to expect from the standpoint of the Jewish community on Hilton Head, not to prepare plans for anything more than we could afford. And I was absolutely adamant about that. So, these guys were young at the time. They had just come to Hilton Head. They were young architects. They went to Charleston and they went to Savannah and looked at the temples there. And actually, one of the things that I did, which I was very pleased about, was that I'm from Memphis. Temple Israel in Memphis was on the tour in Memphis. It was part of the Cloud Foundation money. So it was a magnificent structure. So I brought the exterior of the pictures of the exterior of Temple Israel to the architects, and they used that miniature form of that for the exterior of our temple. And so that's where that came from, was using the exterior of Temple Israel in Memphis, which was a very well-known structure at the time.
Go off for a second. Prompted you to come to Hilton Head?
I came to Hilton Head in the mid-'80s, and actually I married someone from Hilton Head. I had been a widow since '77, so anyway, I married someone from Hilton Head. My children were in college, and so I immediately got involved with the congregation, and it was such fun because everybody was very close. We would have the Friday night services at the Presbyterian Church. John Miller, who will always be very dear to all of us, was unbelievably kind. And he bent over backwards to accommodate us in every way possible. And he was always there. He was very much a part of everything that we did, including our Seder services. The congregation was small, but it was very, very close. We had student rabbis, and Amy Ehrlich, who was the student rabbi who was on my watch, introduced me to her colleagues at Emmanuel as the person that taught me everything I know. She was an absolutely delightful young lady at the time, and who's gone on, of course, to be one of the rabbis of Temple Emmanuel in New York. Saturdays were wonderful because we always met at somebody's house. We had a discussion. We had Havdalah services, and everybody participated.
Okay. That was something we didn't know about. Mm-hmm. We didn't know about the Havdalah services on Saturday.
Yeah.
That was
just a regular thing that we did when the student rabbis were here.
Mm-hmm.
So I became involved for two reasons. Number one, I had served on lots of boards before, so I knew an awful lot about structure of boards. I'd headed up boards, and decided that I had something to contribute to what was going on as far as building our congregation and building just doing the building of what we were doing.
How many people were involved at that point?
How many people were on the board?
No, how many people were in the congregation at that point?
In '87, there were 71 families, and there were 71 families, yeah. In '87. Okay. And again, like I said, I served on the board. When I was younger too, I was very involved with SOFTI and NIFTY, Southern Federation of Temple Youth, and the National Federation of Temple Youth. And so we had 14 children in our congregation at the time. And so wanted to be sure that we developed a youth group, and we developed an affiliation with the National Federation of Temple Youth, which we did in 1988. That was established, and I was very, very happy to see that sort of move forward, because it's very important for Temple Youth who are in a rural area like ours to have the camaraderie with other children or other youth in the same area. And speaking of that, in 1987, I got a note from a professor, Nagy, from the College of Charleston. He was just beginning to do a study about the Jews in the area, and wanting to know about the Jews of Hilton Head. And so I wrote to him saying we had at the time a population of about 17,000 people. But we were building this Jewish community, and how excited that I was about that. The irony of this whole thing was that, of course, now we have the College of Charleston. We have a huge school over there with Jewish studies, and we have many people that have written, of course, about the Jews of Charleston, including Robert Rosen, who has written a couple of books about that. But at the time, nobody knew very much, and nobody really had a handle on how important the Jewish population was to Charleston and to the coast. And I thought that was most interesting.
How many kids were in the religious?
14.
14.
Yeah, it's in my notes somewhere. There were 14 students in our religious committee. And as I mentioned to you, from day one, I wanted to start the structure of committees, because we had sort of we were shooting from the hip at that point. So at the first board meeting in June, I started with the appointment of committees, and all the committees that were set up, which are still in place, I think most of them today. And everybody on the board had a job. We had the Physical Facilities Committee, the Ritual Committee, the Religious School Committee, the Membership Committee, the Grief Support Committee, Communications, Social, and an Audit. And then Hank Noble was appointed to be over 3 of the committees. Paul Klein was appointed to be over 3 of the committees, and I took over one of the committees. So that was already in place from day one. And then in September, I set up this, I gave everybody a sheet of what the committee was supposed to be doing. And I think many of these things are probably still in place today.
Excuse me. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. But so that was very important to me, that we get that started and we get moving on having different committees. The Floral Committee was created after that, but it was just a time when I was adamant that we get this started and get the organization formed. At one point, and I'm not sure whether it's 87 or 88, I commissioned a statue. Do you know about this?
No.
With the garden. It was really, the way it happened was really, I commissioned a statue to commemorate my parents. We had a garden. It was the S'mores Memorial Garden. And Sherry Farbs had commissioned Sherry Farbs.
Maiden name? Parents' name?
SCHWARZ. And at services one night, after services at the ONEG, I said to my new friend, Sherry Farbstein, Sherry, I would like to find someone who's a potter to do a statue of Rebecca at the well. And this area out here that we don't have a garden or anything, that we can create a garden. Do you know anybody who might be able to do this? Of course, Sherry raised back and she said, I can do that. And I said, wonderful. So Sherry and I worked together, and she created this beautiful statue of Rebecca, and we had a little pond and a little garden, and it was Rebecca at the well. And we did a dedication of that. And I'm sure that there are pictures around of something. It was a beautiful area where we could have onyx at night. We could go out there on Friday nights when it was pretty. It was vandalized once, and I think the statue was repaired. It was vandalized a second time, and the board, which was a few years later, I was no longer on the board, said, well, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to do away with it. I was not happy about that. So basically what we ended up doing was that we got insurance money for it. And so Sherry did the relief of the matriarchs to take that place, which is now hanging in our social hall.
That beautiful piece.
Yes. And it has a plaque by it, which is in memory of my parents, Molly and Charles Albert Schwartz. But it was a lovely area to start with Rebecca at the well, and my children had come in and for the dedication. It was really a big thing. So that was again part of our history, but we did not want to. The board decided they did not want it to stay there and to keep being vandalized. So.
hold it for a second. Tell us about the memorial garden behind the original temple.
All right, you could see, if you were sitting in the sanctuary, it was off. You were sitting looking at the bema. It was off to the right. There was a grassy area there, and so that's where it was. It was just a very pretty thing to look at during services, or when it was pretty outside. We would have our own eggs that would open the doors, and people would go out there.
Thank you. I didn't know anything about that. Okay.
It was very nice.
Now that's now where the school area is, the fenced-in area where the playground for the kids. Is that an area? That's the area you're referring to?
You know, Alan, I'll have to.
It's on the right if you look out the window.
I'll have to go look just to be sure. But I can go look and I can show you exactly where it was. We'll do that, and I'll show you exactly where it was.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're back.
All right, I've covered the thing about Charleston, because I thought that was really interesting. You know, they're writing to ask us about our congregation, because if you know anything about Charleston now, they have this huge school of studies there. And this whole thing, this is exactly what everybody was supposed to be doing in their committees and what was required of them. And then they had a sheet they had to turn in for every board meeting telling me what they had done. So that I would know.
Mm-hmm. Sounds very familiar to what is continued to this day.
Exactly, yeah. And I'm I was very proud of that. And that was really, like I said, there were two things I wanted to do, was to get us moving in that direction.
Now, what was your background that you knew how to do that?
When I lived in Memphis, I was when I lived in Memphis, I was a do-gooder. I sat on 12 boards at one time. Have been presidents of board, vice presidents of boards, board members of everything from everything from the symphony board, and my husband was a doctor, so I was involved with the physicians' wives. I was on the Republican committee, women's committee. I ran political campaigns. I basically served on many boards, and the literacy board, ballet boards. So I sat on a lot of boards. Mm-hmm. I guess the answer to the question as to how I knew about setting up committees and running things was that I was a do-gooder when I lived in Memphis. I sat on lots and lots of boards.